Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ya ayyuhal Muslimun. To the long-time listener and first-time visitor, we welcome you to this episode. Now, without further ado, let's get into it.
Alhamdulillah, hamdan kathiran tayyiban mubarakan fih, kama yuhibbu rabbuna wa yarda. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله الناصح الأمين اللهم صل على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين ثم أما بعد الحمد لله على نعمة الإسلام والسنة. All praise and thanks belong to Allah for guiding us to Islam and for guiding us to the Sunnah. It is important for each and every one of us in our journey of seeking knowledge, for those who have an appetite to learn more, to seek more, which should be all of us. Because the Prophet ﷺ, he said, طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ فَرِيضَةٌ عَلَى كُلِّ Muslim. Seeking knowledge is obligatory upon every Muslim. So it is obligatory upon us to know those affairs that are individually an obligation upon us, a specific obligation upon us, fardul ayn. Then each of us, we have to know those affairs. Ala kulli hal, it is important that we start from where we are. Now, in full disclosure, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in His noble book, He informs us, Inna sanulqi alayka qawlan thaqila. Allah Ta'ala, He says what translated means, and that verily we shall send down upon you a weighty word. Now, so I don't want you to understand that it's going to be easy, because it's not going to be easy. But whoever says that it's going to be easy, that knowledge is easy and is light, then that individual, they would miss out on much. They would miss out on much. Now, but at the same time, it may not be as hard as you think. It may not be as hard as you think. And it's important that we develop good habits. Bithnillahi ta'ala. Now, I don't know if this would be new to anyone or whether it would be a reminder for others in the audience and those who are hearing my voice. But I became Muslim when I was in the 10th grade. And I was the only Muslim in my family at the time that I knew of. And I was raised in a family that were not native speakers of the Arabic language. But with that, and even at that time when things weren't as easily accessible as now, there was no excuse then. So there's definitely no excuses now. Now, at that time, in the 90s, in the early 90s, there were a lot of Muslims in New Jersey, but not to the extent of now. There weren't as many masajid then as there are now. There weren't many marakis for learning. There weren't many opportunities at that time. So just to give you an example, at that time when I became Muslim, there were 2 weekend programs. 2 weekend programs. And it wasn't even a whole weekend. It was 1 day a week. 1 day a week. And due to the situation at that time, the only day a week that they were able to get these facilities, then it was on a Sunday. So every Sunday there was an Islamic program for a few hours a day. In my area we had 2. We had one that was in Keyport, New Jersey, and the other that was in a town called Matawan, New Jersey. Now, and I'm mentioning these names, although they may not be relevant or may not be relatable to the people here, because you don't know Jersey and how far these towns are one from another, so on and so forth. They're not terribly far from one another. But the shahid, the point is that I did not live in Keyport, nor did I live in Matawan. So there was no Islamic program in my town. Although these towns weren't terribly far, they still were good 20 some odd, 15 some odd minutes away in a car, right? In a car. Ala kulli hal. The point is that with this scarcity of resources, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He blessed the Muslims in that area and during that time, and many of them, they went on to become decent inside of the Arabic language, at least as relates to its reading and writing, so on and so forth. Now, meaning that in my age range and in my peer group, I don't believe there was a single one that to this day does not know how to read from the Mus'haf. Naam, walillahi alhamd. Ala kulli hal, we started very slowly and easily and simply. I don't recall there being a specific book that we learned from. You know those little green books on the yellow paper? Look like someone stapled them together. And I believe someone did staple them together. They were like photocopies, right? This was one of the resources that we had at the time. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless those brothers and those administrations who ran those schools, because these schools had to be ran at a cost. They were behind a paywall. And this is because at the time they were renting out local elementary schools. And they were utilizing these schools to teach the children in, because like I said, there was no masjid in my town at that time. There was no masjid in Keyport nor in Mattawan at that time. Now, so the only place that we can really gather, because the nearest masjid was either the one in Newark, New Jersey, or East Orange at the time. This is pre-Masjid al-Rahmah. So East Orange, New Jersey at the time, you had some masajid there. In Asbury Park, New Jersey, you had some masajid there. Homedale, New Jersey, you had some masajid there. Long story short, each of these were like a half an hour plus or more away from the town. So for the local Muslims living in that area, this was not feasible. So they had no other option but to rent out elementary schools. Now, and that was a big reason why they were on Sunday, because I guess they had some other things happening on the Saturday to the end of it. But they were very generous to us, because everyone who accepted Islam, they allowed us to come to the schools for free. So we didn't pay anything. We all had free scholarships to come and to learn at both schools. Now, I'm at both schools. So alhamdulillah, this was what we had then. And the teaching method was very simple. We learned the alphabet, right? Then we learned the harakat, fatha, kasra, dhamma. Then we learned about the tanween, shadda, lam al-shamsiyya, lam al-qamariyya, lean, like taw, tay, thaw, thay, like this, right? Very simple. But we learned, and alhamdulillah, we were able to read. We didn't know what we were saying. It wasn't very fast. It was very choppy, but we were struggling. We were able to read, right? Alhamdulillah, in a very short period of time. It didn't take massive amount of months, and mind you, it was only one day a week. It didn't take massive amount of months before we were able to articulate things. And like this, we learned the numbers in Arabic. So you guys are young. You don't understand these references perhaps, but there was a time period that we had to memorize phone numbers, and we had to write them down in a little phone book that we used to have near to the house phone with the long curly cord in the house, right? So as an exercise, I wrote all of the numbers, all the phone numbers in Arabic. To my mother's dismay, when she went and looked for a number, said, "I can't. What do you do? I can't read this. What's the number?" But that was an exercise. I write all the numbers in Arabic. Why not? Alhamdulillah. Ala kulli hal, these were the resources that we had at our disposal at that time, early 90s. Now, walillahi alhamd, we have a multitude of books. This was pre-smartphone, right? Pre-cell phone. I mean, people had them. They looked like they'll give you cancer. They were so big. You remember them things? But we didn't have access to them. The internet was around, technically, but it wasn't widely available. It wasn't inside of people's homes. No one was emailing anyone. There were no online lessons or anything like that. And yet people at that time, they were still able to learn. So now, during this time, we really don't have an excuse. And although it's not easy, it's still not as hard as you think. Alhamdulillah, we have apps that have these books that we had printouts of, or versions, yani maybe similar. I don't even think it was Al-Qaeda and Nuraniya or Al-Baghdadiya or any one of those famous ones. This was something that Allahu Alam who even put it together. I don't know. But it wasn't as sophisticated even as those books. So now we have those books and they're available. We can buy them online. If you have a special account, right? I'm not mentioning no names. I'm not giving nobody no advertisement. But you know, you have a special account, you get free shipping and it's there the next day, right? Or within 3 days. So you can have it. Then you can get a PDF version that's available online. You can download the app right now and you can have it on your phone. So it's a lot easier perhaps than a lot of us think. So when I say that there are no excuses, really there are no excuses. These are efforts that bi'ithnillahi ta'ala we should be very diligent in pursuing and chasing after, because they make things a lot easier upon the student, where everyone has access to resources. In fact, a great multitude of access to resources, so much so that a person will have decision fatigue because they don't know this one or that one. Should I download this one or that? Which was better? Which is that? And then they have online where there are classes that people have actually taught these books in totality for free. And you can sit there and listen and pause and stop and pause and stop, you know. Not like we used to have to say that again. What did you write on the board? I don't even understand that. That's not even legible to me. What is that? Right? Because it's not like they were writing like the typewriter. You know, we had Otto brothers, they were just writing. He said, what are them squiggly lines? What are that supposed to be? Oh, okay. Anyway, you don't have those issues now. You have nice type, big font, you know, you can expand it, make it bigger. Alhamdulillah. So the point is that there is no excuse. There is no excuse. Now, a lot of these things are for free. Some are behind a paywall, but nonetheless, they are plentiful. Very plentiful. So there shouldn't be anyone in the community right now that does not know at least how to read from the Mus'haf. I'm not saying you have to be like Husri. No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that you even have to be less than that. But there's not a single one from amongst us except that we should be able to read through the Mus'haf. Even if we stumble, right? We should all be able to read because the resources are there. The programs are there. Alhamdulillah, here locally in the masjid, we have Arabic classes. Now, look on the board back there. You can see the lesson that the brothers are going through, right? If anyone who has the ability and the time, if you're not in those classes, I fear you will come to regret not being in those classes. There's always a benefit. Even if you think that you're not ready for that class, you're still going to benefit. There were brothers, some of the brothers in East Orange, may Allah Ta'ala reward them, they will come and pick me up. Because obviously there came a point where there's not but so much we could have learned inside of the schools. We pretty much exhausted what they had to offer. And then it was rinse and repeat, right? So we outgrew those programs when it had hamd. We really didn't have any intermediate programs, but we had some brothers that were doing some things a little more sophisticated than what we were on. But the older brother said, you know what? I'll take you to class with me. And we went. And alhamdulillah, we benefited. A couple words here, a couple words there. But more so than anything else, we learned discipline. Remember, I was a little high school kid. So it taught me discipline. How to sit in class, how to sit on the floor, how to write on the floor, how, you know, taught me discipline. So although I don't remember a lot scholastically that I picked up from those classes, I remember the discipline that it taught me. Even before I understood Arabic to this level that I have now, and I still need more, I would attend classes in Arabic, maybe only understanding 5%. That's it, maybe if that. I'm being generous. Maybe it was less. Allahu A'lam, a word here and there. But it was beneficial. Why? Because only by listening are you able to now identify the distinction between words, where a word begins and where a word ends. That's a skill. Because when you first hear a language, for the first time, second, third, fourth, or fifth time, you don't know where the word begins, you don't know where the word ends. It sounds like a blur to you. It's only once through repetition of constantly listening are you able to identify where a word begins and where a word ends. That's a skill, and that's important. Now, these are building blocks. So I will encourage even to sit in those classes that you feel may be slightly above your level. Still sit there and benefit bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. You're going to benefit from the sakina coming down, and you're going to benefit from what you're able to get from the discipline, learning how to sit there, learning how to be diligent, patient, so on and so forth. And then whatever you're able to pick up, you're able to pick up. Point is that there is no excuse. And in closing, what I would say is, there were many from the youth who would say things like, inshallah, when I get accepted to the University of Medina, then I'm going to be hardworking. Other brothers at that time said, inshallah, when I get to Yemen to go study with Sheikh Muqbil, rahmatullahi alayhi, then I'm going to be hardworking. There were other brothers who said, inshallah, when I get to Egypt, then I'm going to be hardworking, you know, and so on and so forth. You know, brothers say, well, I go to Mecca, Qur'an, I'm going to be hardworking. When I get over there, you see, it's going to be different. And Allah alam, I don't know every case, but all the brothers who I knew, if they were lazy in America, they were lazy overseas. If they were not diligent and the best of students in America, they carried that with them overseas. They was just as lazy, and a lot of those brothers to this day, they left with almost nothing. Still don't speak Arabic, still don't know tajweed, so on and so forth. Now, why? Because we have to, and this is one of the benefits that we get from sitting in classes, is that we have to start to develop these good habits now, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. It's not going to kick into gear when you get there if you haven't established them here. So bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, my advice to everyone, as is to myself, is start where you are. Start where you are, but start now, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. This is just some things I want to share with the brothers, inshallah ta'ala, and those who my voice reaches them. فنكتفي بهذا القدر. صلى الله عليه وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. جزاكم الله خيرا. نعم.